The most important document in your VA claim is a document you have never read. You carried it your entire career. A folder with your name on it followed you from duty station to duty station, and you never once opened it. Every condition you claim traces back to it. So when you finally go to get it, you find out something nobody warned you about. It isn't there, not because it was lost, because there is no single file called your medical records. There never was. There are 4 service treatment records created while you were in, your official military personnel file, a different record with a different custodian, VA treatment records created after you separated, and private medical records sitting with your civilian doctors. 4 records, 4 doors. By the end of this video, you will know what is behind each one and the key that opens it. And here is why nobody ever handed you any of it. DOD Instruction 6040.45 states that the health record is the property of the United States government, not the beneficiary. In plain terms, you were the subject of that record. You were never the owner of it, but the VA is obligated to go get it for you. That is 38 CFR 3.159, the duty to assist, and it is real. The catch is that it does not reach all 4 doors the same way, and the door it does not reach is where claims quietly die. So let's open them. One at a time. Behind each door is a different custodian holding a different record opened by a different key. Door 1, Service Treatment Records, STRs, and that is the actual name, governed by DOD Instruction 6040.45. Sick call, physicals, screenings, dental, each visit on its own form, filed into one folder that traveled with the service member, and that folder was never meant to sit in a warehouse forever. Beginning in the 90s, the branches started retiring those records to the VA instead of the personnel file, and since January 1st, 2014, the transfer is supposed to run electronically after separation. The intent is that they reach the VA on their own. Door 2, the official military personnel file, the OMPF, a separate record, a separate custodian, and nothing medical inside it. Enlistment, assignments, duty stations, awards, discipline, and the DD-214. After separation, it is held at the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis. The key is Standard Form 180, and under the Privacy Act, 5 U.S.C. 552A. That request has to carry a signature written by hand, and that record does work no medical file can do. A presumptive claim under 38 CFR 3.309 does not turn on a doctor's note. It turns on location and dates. Burn pits, Agent Orange, Camp Lejeune, all of it rests on where a veteran stood and when. In plain terms, the medical record shows what happened. The personnel record shows where. The regulation needs both, and they are kept in 2 different buildings. Door 3. VA treatment records, everything created after separation inside VA healthcare. This one does not go to St. Louis, and it does not go to the Defense Department. It goes to the Medical Records Office at the VA facility that provided the care, and the key is VA Form 10-5345A. Note the letter A on the end. The form without it releases your records to somebody else, and this door carries a rule the others do not, and it came from a court. Bell versus Derwinski, 1992. Records the VA generates in its own facilities are considered constructively in the VA's possession when it decides a claim, whether or not anyone physically placed them in the file. In plain terms, the VA is treated as already holding its own records. Door 4, private medical records, the civilian specialist, the sleep study, the therapy paid for out of pocket, often the clearest evidence of what a condition costs today, and it sits with a custodian the VA has no authority over. 2 keys open it, and they do 2 different jobs. A record can be requested straight from the provider, which puts a copy in the veteran's hands, or VA Form 21-4142, which authorizes the VA to go ask. 1 key opens the record, the other opens the duty to assist, so who is obligated to open them? 38 CFR 3.159. The duty to assist. Once a substantially complete claim is filed, the VA is legally required to make reasonable efforts to gather the evidence that supports it. That is not a courtesy. Congress put that obligation on them, but the regulation does not treat all 4 doors the same. For federal records, 38 CFR 3.159 C2 2 says the VA will make as many requests as are necessary, and the M21-1, the Adjudication Procedures Manual, the VA trains its own staff on, defines federal records to include Service Department personnel records, not just medical ones, so the STRs, the OMPF, and VA treatment records are all federal. The VA has to keep knocking, and it can only stop when it concludes the records do not exist. Now door 4, under 38 CFR 3.159 C.1, for records not in federal custody, the VA will make reasonable efforts, and the regulation defines that phrase in its own text. An initial request, and if the records do not come back, at least one follow-up. Not as many as necessary, one, and then one more. And the private door has a condition the federal doors do not. The VA has no authority over a civilian provider. Before it can request a single page, an authorization has to be on file. VA Form 21-4142. Without it, the VA is not permitted to ask. Not unwilling, not slow, not permitted, and the regulation says so out loud. 38 CFR 3.159 states that the claimant is responsible for ensuring the VA receives records not in the custody of a federal agency, which means a private record with no authorization behind it is not a record the VA overlooked. It is a record the VA was never permitted to ask for. The claim gets decided on what made it into the file, and years of civilian treatment can sit in a cabinet 40 miles away. Never requested, never read, never weighed. One more thing about that duty, because it has a limit built into it. The VA keeps requesting a federal record until it arrives, or until it concludes the record does not exist, which means the regulation already contemplates the possibility that a door opens onto nothing. It happens. A folder lost in a transfer, a clinic that closed, and on July 12, 1973, a fire at the National Personnel Records Center in St. Louis destroyed somewhere between 16 and 18 million military personnel files. It did not touch every veteran, and knowing which windows it actually hit is its own subject, but it is the reason some records cannot be produced no matter how many times the VA asks. What the regulation does not do is turn that absence into evidence. Under 38 CFR 3.102, when the evidence for and against a claim is approximately balanced, the doubt is resolved in the veteran's favor, and the regulation states that the doctrine applies even in the absence of official records. In plain terms, a record that is gone does not count against the veteran it was written about. What to do when it is gone is a road of its own, and we walk it in another video. There is one more file worth naming because it shows the result of all of this. The C file, the VA's own claims record, requested on VA Form 20-10206. We take that file apart completely in another video, but understand what it is here. 4 doors were opened, or they were not. Authorizations were signed, or they were not. Whatever the answer, it all ends up in one place, and that one file is what the VA decides from. Every page still sitting with a custodian is a page that was never weighed, and that is the thing worth sitting with. The record was never yours. DOD Instruction 6040.45 said so, and it is still true. Custody has not moved, and it is not going to. But every one of those keys, the standard form 18, the 10-5345A, the 21-4142, exists because access was never the same thing as ownership. The folder stays with the government. The copy was always available to the person it was written about. Almost nobody was ever told that second part. 4 doors, 4 custodians, and a path that changes with the separation date. You do not have to hold all of that in your head. We built you the records locator, put in your branch, and when you separated, and it tells you who is holding each record, which form opens it, and where the request goes. The link is in the description. It's built, it's waiting, it's yours. Use it. Nothing here is a promise of any particular rating. Every claim is different. What we give you is the cleanest way we know to execute. For Guard and Reserve, women veterans, step-by-step, or benefits news, subscribe to the channel that fits your fight. Getting your records is one thing, reading them is another. When they arrive, what is written on the page is not always what what happened to you, and only what is written can be rated. That is the next thing to understand, what your records actually say. Watch that one next. There's gotta be another way, and this is it.